I am Feel It.
And I am Fix It. And we talk about life.
And stuff and things.
With the occasional rant.
Which you will have no problem doing.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever the case may be.
You knew what I was waiting for.
Yeah, I know what you were waiting for. I just try to do it a little bit different every time. Just keep it interesting. We'll see how that goes. I might end up scripting it just so we don't. Or record it once and just hit play.
No.
Yeah, no.
No script.
No script. Not usually.
Nope.
Occasionally. But as the case may be. We try to keep it honest.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. If you hadn't noticed, I also try not to edit. The mistakes you hear, the stumbling over ourselves, that's what actually happened.
I mean, why hide it?
But anyway.
We're on episode
8.
8.
Yes.
8.
And I'm calling this one, and since I do the editing and labeling and uploading, I'm calling this one Shake the Cup.
Shake the Cup. And you're going to have to explain that to me.
We'll get there.
Okay, because, I've read the prompt a few times.
Yep, and she's not getting... She's not getting what I'm throwing down.
That's not uncommon.
Allow me to explain.
I mean, I haven't had to do a lot of functioning yet today, so there might be that too.
Well, and my brain goes directions that your brain doesn't go.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an example.
So.
A point that I'll try and make.
And to explain, I know there was a meme. I am not imagining sharks and emotions, and I will find it. We look at many things and kind of save them to talk about, and then sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. And I know I'm not imagining it. We'll figure it out. So the backup was, okay, you pick one today.
Okay.
And I will find what I was thinking of.
Sure.
Next time. I hope.
In
maybe.
The world of stuff that's out there.
I don't know, but
trying to find
if I don't,
specific
I don't.
example.
So
can be tricky.
Shake the Cup is based on what you found today.
Sure. Well,
so please,
I find a lot of stuff, and I save a lot of stuff because I think it's interesting. And then I share with her, and she goes, we need to talk about that. Today it was just like, we need one. Okay, how about this? And yeah, anyway.
It's a different one.
It is, and I'm not... whoever posted it, or whoever originally wrote it, they're not credited, so I can't give credit where credit is due on this one. But it's it's kind of common sense from an outside observer. Anyway, but allow me to read what it says. When it comes to abusive behavior, if they know to hide it, they know it's wrong. If they don't do it in front of other people, they know how to control it. And we've seen numerous examples of that over the years.
Mm-hmm. In all shapes and forms.
Many. And it's kind of, and you can kind of take that beyond abusive behavior. It's not just abusive behavior, it's behaviors. If you feel the need to hide it, it's wrong.
Yes.
And if you don't do it in certain circumstances and do it in others, you can definitely control it.
Yes.
Yeah. Phone's being wonky. Plugged it in.
Technical
and it's
difficulties.
It's freaking out. I think it's better now. Nope. Okay.
Just deal with that later.
It's a blinking light. It's distracting me.
Yes.
A lot.
Oh man. Stop looking.
Flip it over. Now I can't see it. Anyway. Yeah.
Object permanence.
Yeah. No, it's shiny.
Yeah, that too. Okay, anyway.
I suffer
Abuse.
from ADH squirrel.
Abuse. I'm so aware. So, abusive behaviors.
Yeah, their point was, or their example was abusive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again...
So you're looking at it just anything you want to hide, any behavior you want to hide?
If you feel the need to hide it, then you know you shouldn't be doing it,
Fair.
typically speaking.
Fair.
Now, there are things that are private
Sure.
that you don't put out in public.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, not that I have issues specifically with PDA, but as a general rule, nobody needs to see that. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like sloppy makeouts in public. It's just nobody.
I was just gonna say, what's your definite? Where are you going with that?
Yeah, nobody needs to see that. I mean, it's not necessarily, but you know that intimate side of your life. That's private. It doesn't need to be broadcast. It doesn't need to be out there. But that's not hiding. I mean, like our daughters wish we hid the fact that sex was a part of our life. Especially the youngest one. She's really...
We are asexual blobs.
Asexual blobs is how she likes to think of us as, which is just... That's funny. And I can appreciate that, but she wasn't like that before, so she's going through some stuff.
Sure.
We know what stuff she's going through, so...
Yeah, we do.
Whew.
We do.
Yes, we do.
We do.
And we're not going down that road right now.
Nope, not at all.
But, see, I'm a very open person. I strive to be the same in public that I am in private, and vice versa. I mean, you have to put on the hat of the situation, so there's always some variability. Tactfulness,
not offending, depending on where you are.
And depending on where you are. I don't worry too much about offending. I don't go out of my way to offend. If you're offended by the truth, then you should be offended by the truth. But you shouldn't speak something...
You're just creating all kinds of sub-things here.
Well, if you're offended by the fact that the sky is blue and not purple...
Maybe I am.
That's on you.
You're right, it is.
There's a big difference between someone saying something offended and someone being offended. Or someone saying something offensive and someone being offended.
Yes.
People are becoming offended against things that are not inherently offensive.
I won't disagree. Now
that's different.
Let's loop that back around.
That's again, it's different. Again, back to, you put on different hats. I have to behave slightly different at work than I am at home. Because the relationships are different and the job expectation is different. You know, at home, it's like, the lawn needs mowing. I'll do that tomorrow. At work, hey, this needs to get done. It's okay, I got to get this done. You know, you got to kind of, and you're interacting with different people on a different level. There's a professionalism that's required, a lack of, to a degree, anyway. In what I do, there's much less of, but there needs to be this professional
decorum.
That's a good word. Professional decorum for the job that isn't required at home. So I put on the hat, but I'm still me wearing the hat. If you have to fundamentally change who you are to be seen as a decent person, maybe you need to work on that. Okay, anyway, let me backtrack to my title.
Okay.
In relation to, an abuser at home doesn't want people to know, so they don't do it in public, and they can control themselves out in public. But when they're at home, they're, abusive. they're abusive, disrespectful, potentially angry, violent, whatever the case may be. This is a little bit of a tangent to that, but I can't help but think about a different analogy used for people's behavior. It's like, if you have a cup of coffee and I bump into you and you spill the coffee, why did the coffee come out of the cup?
Because it didn't have a lid.
See, there's an answer. That's the answer, but that's not the answer.
Because he got bumped into?
It's because there was coffee in the cup.
Oh. Okay.
Why didn't orange juice come out? Well, because it was a cup of coffee.
Okay, that is...
Because
there's some semantics. Wow.
You are...
All right. Ooh.
When life bumps you, what you are full of is what comes out.
Okay, I can go with you on that one. All right.
That's...
I actually, counsel in their purview, so I can go with you there.
Sure. And that makes, say, when you're rattled, what you are full of is what comes out.
Yes.
When life gets frustrating, you have that frustration and you get angry, you have anger, and that's just what made it spill. There are people that in your life that it doesn't matter what happens to them. If life gets rattled, they put a smile on their face and they trudge through. It's like, hey, we're going to get through this. This is awesome.
I have been accused of that.
Well, there's
they see the smile. They see both sides most of the time, but
well, we knew someone some years back. They got, I believe it was esophageal cancer. This was before it was after the China trip, before we moved.
Oh man, this would have been a while ago.
Her name is escaping me. She was the receptionist.
Oh, no. I don't think it was esophageal.
It was either stomach or esophageal.
I could be
because
wrong.
She lost the ability to swallow.
I think yes. I believe, and I could be very, very wrong, but I believe it might have been like uterine or something that had actually metastasized elsewhere in her body.
It's possible.
I do know who you are talking about. Yes. Yes.
She was dying. I mean, she was actively starving to death because she could not eat.
Yes, we were talking about the right person.
Yes. And you could not rattle that woman.
Not that we ever saw.
There was, she had her moments. You have your moments. However, there's, in the middle of the earthquake, you're shaken. And then once the ground stops shaking and you settle back into who you are, who she was calm and peaceful. And all she wanted to do with her last days was connect with people and make sure that they were going to be okay. She spent the last weeks of her life meeting with friends and family and just making sure that they were going to be okay when it was all over.
Yes, and it was an
when
honor
she
to see
was
her.
shaken.
Yes.
That's what came out. In context of the prompt, the abusers. They're abusive internally. That motivation, that whatever desire. And then life shakes them. And they keep a lid on it because they know they get in trouble and it's wrong. And then they get home and they can let the lid off and they spill their coffee everywhere.
I get where you're going.
So
I do.
And there's a motivation there. There's a reason there. There's something in there. Now, what that is going to be up for debate and discussion, and it's going to vary based upon the individual person's background and the things that they've gone through and their mental health status and their physiological and neurological.
So many elements.
So many things. However, again, based on the prompt, going off of the prompt and going off of the examples that we are aware of, specific case that we both know exactly who we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Their behavior, generally speaking, in public, is mostly calm, sometimes irritable, but, people. But they try to be liked and respected and looked up to. And the minute the door closes, they turn into horrific people.
We know a few of those.
Yeah, we do, unfortunately. No too. The fact that we know any is too many, actually. I get not being the best version of yourself, because it's a journey. You're never actually there. You just should always strive to be better tomorrow than you were today. And you should strive to be today better than the person you were yesterday. And even to the smallest degree.
This is calculated, though. That prompt is in terms of somebody that does it, that can contain it, that is aware.
Yes.
It's not unconscious.
Well, and when they turn around and they don't want the people that know to talk about it, well, that's nobody else's business. That's inside the family. That's just, it's like we don't talk.
Or there's excuses.
Or there's excuses. Or
we know
like,
we
well,
we
don't
know
talk
that too.
about that. Don't talk about that. What were people are going to think about us? Well,
or I had the bad day.
Again,
or you hear 100 times.
And again,
well,
I had a bad day.
I wasn't raised in a happy home. I mean, we've heard the
yeah.
things.
Well, and again, I had a bad day.
When you're like a grown adult, and you
so
should be past
somebody,
that.
So you spilled your coffee.
But there's
metaphorical, and I don't mean literal. Sometimes it's literal.
But there's
but
the
metaphorical,
the reaction that's calculated is what you're talking about, or dismissive.
Yes. Well, there's that too. But
I understand what you're saying. We do know different types in that way.
Yeah, and
there is an ownership,
there's
regardless.
A specific situation surrounding us that fits that perfectly.
Oh,
it's
like
like
a couple.
Sure, but in that, yeah. But it's like they don't do it outside of the house, and they don't do it where other people can know about it. It's like that means they're consciously.
None of them do. Correct.
They're consciously aware that what they're doing is wrong.
Correct.
And they are consciously aware of the effect it would have on them. And yet they don't seem to want to be better.
None of them do. Correct.
Which I don't get that. That's the one part in the whole situation I don't get. I mean, I get having...
There's always excuses.
I mean, I still, to a degree... okay, I have a very, very, very ridiculously short fuse for minor things sometimes. But this is pissing me off. I'm very frustrated. I need that 5-second blow up. Okay, now I'm good. I just need to get that energy, that negative whatever. Okay. All right, I've had my moment. Okay, now let.
And we can all have moments.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the moments, but at the same time, if your moments involve throwing someone up against a wall, you don't get to have that moment.
Or just being emotionally or verbally abusive in general, making rash, horrible decisions that affect other people's lives.
Verbally attacking someone. I mean, I get being angry. I get being angry at a situation. I get being angry at a person's behavior and actions, and call them on it. By all means, call them on it. And even there's nothing necessarily wrong with yelling in and of itself. I do believe in, there was who was it? That's escaping me. But it was a bit of advice when you argue with someone. The first person to yell loses. Well, it means you've moved beyond rational into emotional, and at that point, you're not actually having an argument. You're just screaming at each other.
Of course, yes. I've taught these techniques. It's part of what I do when it's necessary within a situation.
Yeah.
Yes, you call it like rules of engagement or rules of communication or whatever term you want to toss on it. But you can also be passive aggressive. You can be.
Oh, certainly.
You can be. It doesn't have to be an explosive thing.
Sure.
To still be impactful?
Anytime you're going after... If you're going after... There's a difference between you messed up. You did something wrong. You knew we weren't going to approve, and there's ramifications for that. And
you're talking about a parenting context.
Well, sure. Well, even...
I mean, we've known it in marital.
Let's say even relational.
Say we've known it we've known it more in marital than even parenting. But,
sure.
But
there's nothing... Even...
Relationship.
Even heatedly, I get, acoustically amplified, let's say.
You can be very quiet and still be a horrible person.
But I mean, in the moment where, your kid just lit your car on fire or something, there's nothing wrong with yelling in that moment. There's,
sure.
There's things that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed emphatically and immediately. But that's why you messed up. This is what you did wrong. This is how it's going to affect us. There's nothing wrong in that. That is, you goofed. Not, you're a piece of garbage for doing that. That's a personal attack. That's not.
That's the explosive type that I think is more of the abusive side.
Exactly. And that's the difference. But if you don't do that,
when you turn to degradation,
you're not attacking the problem. You're attacking the person. You're no longer being. That's being abusive. That's being harmful.
That's in any relationship.
If you only do it at home when no one's around except for you, you can't say you didn't know, because obviously you know, and you can't say you can't control it, because you can obviously control it.
And I know you're not fond of the term, but it's more prevalent than people do kind of talk about. Then there's the gaslighting factor, because then they want to turn on and make you feel like you deserved it.
Well,
and that is
the gaslighting
what I deal with more than anything. It's the ramifications of it on somebody's life.
Well, true, but
typically it is parenting.
Well, typically the thing is with the gaslighting, it's you got punched in the face. I punched you in the face. And then right after I punched you in the face, I didn't hit you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
that's
sure.
gaslighting. That's saying something that
I didn't want to go there because I know you get all crazy. But I was trying to make a point.
But turning
that there's usually something else attached to it. It's not just
I believe I heard it referred to as reactive abuse. They intentionally treat you like garbage until you react, and then they attack you for reacting to it.
The premise is they try to make you feel like you're crazy, like something didn't happen, like you imagined or whatever. But that comes in different examples. Yes. I know you know what I'm saying. So I gotta keep you off that. I gotta bring you back down. As you're laughing at me.
Sure.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
There's something else attached to it.
Almost always. And that's not to say
that's not right either, though.
No.
Because then you're just bringing in all the excuses and the buddies of like, well, this is why I did this to you. This is why I treat you this way. And it's just this way. And like, I can't get over it and I shouldn't have to.
And therein lies the fundamental...
It's always your fault.
It's always possible that, yes, it is always one individual that's causing the fundamental problem. That is entirely plausible. It is highly unlikely. But again, that goes back, but it's almost never that. It's the interaction between the two. But even if, you have good reasons for that response, no argument. There's always usually deep-seated reasons for that response.
And that person can act a totally different way somewhere else in their life, and you would never even know that they are that person.
Yes.
That makes that calculated.
And that makes it calculated, that makes it... And that in and of itself, I think that is the difference between that being someone that needs to heal and someone that needs to get beat, I guess.
Well, there's definitely some emotional immaturity there, and we've talked about that before.
Certainly.
When you can't just rein it in, and there's this that you're going to act a certain way around certain people, which is also part of that to a degree, right? Because you think, oh well, it's just easy to abuse my kids or my wife, my girlfriend, a boyfriend, right? A woman doing it to a man. That yes, but that never appropriate, and the idea that they act a completely different way, there's so many other layers involved in that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and...
But that's abuse is also like subjective. I know there's like the definitive, but then there's also the what's subjective to the person in the situation.
Yes. No, it's just because it's just because it seems inconsequential to an outside observer doesn't necessarily mean that it's not deeply impactful for the person involved. This is another one that's floated around Instagram and Reddit and other ones. I've seen it multiple times, but kind of relates to that. And it's like, well, I don't remember. You keep talking about all this abuse, this traumatic abuse. I don't remember any of that. It's like, of course you don't. For me, it was the most traumatic event of my life. For you, it was Tuesday. There is something to that. But, I mean, back around, I think that's where I have issue with certain people in general, because I can't live with the duplicity. I can get along with somebody way better if they're always a loudmouth, obnoxious, aggressive.
Was a jackass?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to use that word.
Sure.
We're comfortable with that word.
Once had a pastor use the term jackass in a sermon.
Appropriately.
And I'm like, you know what? If he can, okay, fine, I'm going to let that one slide. Anyway.
But you I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
they're just always like that. Yeah, okay, fine.
Like,
and we've known it. Well, we knew him too. And we've known her.
Yes. It's the duplicity. It's like, which one of you is the lie? Or is it both? See, that's the one I
could definitely handle an all-the-time jackass better than the back and forth Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or Mrs. Hyde.
Yes. See, and it's my particular Crayola color box collection. It's like, my version of my specific version of the rainbow. I don't deal well with deceit, with lies, with that level of, like any level of, the exact word just blew out of my head. It was right there.
Well, but I mean, if you're trying to be better, that's one thing. If you
certainly.
are lying about it,
yes.
and you're living in this weird malicious cycle, that's different.
Or it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, really?
I don't know what you're talking about, or just continue with the excuses.
Like, okay.
While you say you're trying to work on it.
Okay, if we had a video recording of the things that you have admitted have happened and played that for everybody in your life, would that be a problem? Yes? Then why are you doing that? If that's not a problem, then would you, if what you're doing, you don't know, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's like, really? If you're not doing anything wrong, if we showed that to the world, would that be a problem for you?
Genuinely have a mental disorder that you need to work on? Or, are you completely dissociated from reality that you are just not catching yourself here?
I have an amazing amount of grace for people working on themselves.
Absolutely, if it's genuine.
Well, and
more than words.
Yeah, it has to be more than words. And I don't, man, I relate a lot of things to work because that's where I spend way too much time. But, it's like everybody has their occupations. And in my occupation, I'm often dealing with people who are officially trained but really don't know what they're doing. They passed all the classes and they got the go-ahead. And it's kind of like, in most respects, most college degrees.
Yikes, be careful now.
No, I think anybody that's got a college degree, they go and get a job based in that field and they realize that most of the stuff that they learned in school doesn't apply.
That's true.
And
it should be most of the time. I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
it's
whatever.
Like in that regard is you paid a lot of money to only be partially educated to do the job.
Well, because the books aren't the real world.
No, the books aren't the real world. But why? Because the books are written by people who've never actually worked in the real world. They've worked in academia, and now they're teaching it. Anyway, that's a rant for another day.
Let me bring you back down.
That's a rant for another day.
Let me bring it back down.
It's a rant for another day. Or later today. I might just do it off air, because, she's heard it already, so there's no point.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. Anyway. But, I will happily... If somebody genuinely is trying they can mess up 101 times. And I'm not going to think twice about it if they're genuinely trying to learn. It's like, hey, dude, you know what? I know we did this last week, and I did it again. I don't know how I did it again, but I did it again. Okay. All right. And I'll go over and I will help them straighten out whatever it is they got all bent out of shape. And then it's like, okay, well, and I'll explain it again. And there are guys that I've shown the same thing to 20, 30, 40, 50 times.
Sure. And
as long as they are genuinely, trying to learn, I don't care if they're not necessarily capable. I've worked with some people who, honestly, I don't think they had the faculties to truly do the job that they were doing. Nothing against them, in that regard, because everybody has their giftings. But they genuinely wanted to be better. They were trying. They were giving it everything they got. They were coming up short. I will happily, oh, okay, all right, well, let's go through this again. Let me show you again. And not a problem. I have a lot of grace for that. What I have no tolerance for is the guy that walks in, doesn't know a dang thing. Oh, I know it all. Never admits to goofing up. It's like, we watched you do it, dude. We watched you screw that up. I was standing over here waiting because you won't let me tell you you're about to goof up. I watched you do it. Please don't tell me you didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know it all. Oh, okay. Then why is it broken again? In the same way that it broke last time you were working on it. Those are the ones I don't have any patience for. If somebody has, I have, and still struggle sometimes in keeping the darker side of myself in check. I have worked very hard to get to the level that I am now.
You have.
Not perfect, and I strive to be better. I have my moments. Yeah, let's just leave that at that.
Leave it there.
So there's a reason I have grace for people who have issues. You've got anger issues. I get that. You have long stem issues going back to your birth. And like your dad skipped out on your mom and left you to dangle. I can relate. That's what happened to me. The stepdad came in and he did his best, but it's just because someone steps into the role that getting a cast doesn't fix a broken leg. The leg's still broken. The point of the broken leg, or the cast, is to stabilize what's going on so that it can heal. With people, just because it's stable, that injury, that psychological injury, that mental injury, that emotional injury doesn't heal on its own. It'll stay broken. It doesn't matter how long you leave the cast on, it stays broken till you choose.
Oh, well said.
To fix it.
Well said.
And then when you choose to fix it, it hurts again. But if you know it's hurt, and if you can control your reactions, and you can only do it in certain locations where you know it's safe for you to act poorly, you know it hurts. You might not know why it hurts, but you know that it hurts. It's like walking on a broken leg. It's like, you know it hurts. You know you can figure out what's going on, and then you have too much pride. I don't know what it is. I have as much grace for people as I can in that regard. But I can't overlook the fact that something's not right, obviously, because you modify your behavior outside of certain areas. So it's not right. Why are you leaving it broken? Why are you leaving it wrong? It's not. You know it's a problem. You can't not know it's a problem if you control it part of the time.
I want to back up and say I think there's a little bit different. I think I got where you were going, but the analogy with like somebody trying to learn to fix something and they keep getting it wrong. So like that ability to learn I think it's kind of what you were getting at. Might be different from person to person.
Yes. Well, no, I think I was speaking more, I think, to my ability to show grace to somebody.
Okay.
In that, it's like I can accept the fact that you're trying, as long as you're trying. I don't legitimately trying. I don't care. It's like, well, I tried. It's like,
did you? No.
Did you really?
But yes, and then of course the broken leg analogy, very good there. I get that. I might steal that, but
go for it. It's all yours.
There is this idea, of course, as you know, it's harder to change because it hurts. It's harder to be called out. There's pride things. There's
sure.
And there's some things about it that can be innocent.
Sure, but the minute you control it in one situation or in one environment, but you don't control it in another, so you're not innocent of it anymore.
And then when you learn things about people, and I mean, we have intimate knowledge in the friends over the years that, I mean, they make mistakes, they make their choices. Sure. It doesn't mean that we've had to like it, have it be part of our lives, that type of thing. But there's this idea that it does come from somewhere. You can only stand on that for so long. Because when you know it's wrong, it's wrong. I mean, when you do damage and you know you do damage, you got to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
dealing with that is not telling somebody to get over it.
And then sometimes, no, it's not. And then sometimes when you know something about somebody and then you start looking, I'm like, kind of look at it a little different. Like one of those terrible horror movies when you like realize, you know, that you were like in the possessed room the whole time or whatever. Like you start seeing it. The veil's lifted. Mm-hmm. You can actually see the aspects about the person that were there that were kind of pointing to that behavior. So there's always something outside of it. I mean, unless you're just a true, absolute sociopath, psychopath, where you can, you know, hide that super well. People are going to show the tendencies and the things. You just don't necessarily know what it's attached to. Something being so intentional and I'll say sinister as intentionally poorly treating your family, your loved ones, as in the prompt, in that abusive sense. Because when you know you're doing it and you know you're hiding it, that's like, you know you're hiding it. Mm-hmm. It's easy enough to learn how to cope in different environments and in different ways. Again, that doesn't make any of that okay.
No.
Because you know
Definitely
that you know you flip a switch when you're elsewhere.
Yep. And that's where, again, I think it's been attributed to the Gen X. One of the hallmarks of Gen X personality types is they respect genuineness. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know about everybody from in my age group, but I do know. Yeah, me personally, if you're a genuine a-hole, and that's just you. Like, I've known a lot of those guys.
Sure did.
I mean, I've known a lot. I work in a
Sure do.
Yeah, I do. I work in a mechanical field, in factories. Okay, mechanics and fabricators. Like, there is a lot of really cocky a-holes in that industry. Just to be blunt. But that's just them. That is who they are. It's like 24/7. That is just their personality. They're not going to pull any punches. They're not going to be nice about it. They're going to be right in your face. Not necessarily like, I don't mean aggressive. I mean like, there's like, what you see is what you get, and that's I don't care where you meet me at the grocery store. This is who I am. If you meet me at work, this is who I am. When I'm at home, this is who I am. When I'm holding my grandchild, this is who I am. They're just quieter with the grandkid. But it's like, I can respect that. I've said about certain politicians that I completely disagree with literally everything that comes out of your mouth. But I respect the fact that that appears to be exactly who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I can respect that.
Well, there's not a facade.
Exactly. And that's, now, as somebody who claims to be a socialist and drives around in their $100,000 motor coach and their $100,000 sports car, it's like, and while they spend all their time in one of their 3 mansions, you're full of crap. I don't respect that. But a guy that I disagree with, like my aunt, uber liberal, she'll tell you she's so liberal that normal liberals don't associate with her because she makes them look crazy.
It can be entertaining.
I respect her.
Absolutely.
I respect her a great deal, even though I disagree with her on basically everything that comes out of her mouth.
When it comes to politics.
But that's how she lives her life. She believes it wholeheartedly.
She does.
She stands behind
that.
it. She owns it. I can respect that. Be who you are. And that kind of goes back to the whole offensive thing. It's like, if who I am genuinely you are offended by who I am. It's like, unless I'm being offensive, that's on you. Like, she can say what she wants. She does not offend me. Because...
Not really.
Because we can talk. I talk to her about, we disagree. But I understand where she's coming from. I understand her heart. And it's genuinely who she is. And she knows me and she knows my heart. And that's genuinely who I am. We can disagree and still care about each other immensely. It's the duplicity.
There's a lot of duplicity in everything.
Sure.
It's picking and choosing what you will tolerate. Is that a good word?
Well, there's a difference between being again, putting on the hat for the situation. There's the proper hat for the situation. That's different than putting on a whole different face and different voice and different mannerisms. It's like, you're not changing how you're acting, you're changing who you're acting like. And that's the duplicity that just that leads or lends itself to that behaving, being abusive at home and nowhere else, and controlling it everywhere else except for at home. Now, there's something to be said for your home being a safe place where you don't have to necessarily hide yourself, I guess.
Yep. That's supposed to be the intention.
Sure. Okay. It's one of. But
that's not a safety thing, though.
Well, no, but it should be a safe place for everyone in the home to be who they are.
Yes.
Not just you. And if it's a safe place for you to be the person that you don't want everybody else in the world to know that you are, and we're not talking we're not talking like a 50 Shades aspect of your life. We're talking about it's like
everybody knows this reference, even though I've never seen any of them and read any of it.
It was such a huge.
Everybody knows this.
Yeah, I haven't read or watched either because
I got the premise.
No dang interest, but I heard enough about it. There's a side story on that I don't think I'm going to get into today.
Let's just not. If you're avoiding it,
no, it's time. It's about time.
Oh, okay.
We're not talking. That goes back to the intimacy thing. It's like, that doesn't need to be anybody else's business. There's certain things that just don't need to be somebody else's business. And if that's part of it, that's fine. You don't got to put that out in public. I get that. That's fine. But when you're Hannibal Lecter at home, but not everywhere else, and
that's scary.
That's
real.
And not saying
I've seen enough true crime for that.
Oh, this is true. I'm not saying that the people that we know are like murderous cannibals.
No,
but
I don't think so.
But you kind of get that extreme. It's like you're this, respectable, upstanding pillar of the community type that's the leader of this and in charge of this and taking care of this and doing this for the school and doing this for this group and being this person that it's like, oh, this guy is awesome or this gal is awesome.
Yeah, say it can be both. Yeah.
And then as soon as they get home, they're a monster. And not necessarily to each other, but to their kids. It's like, that's the one that now you've... It's like you've taken it it's like, even if it...
You see it in the media all the time.
No, all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
They make a bigger deal about it, of course, if somebody's a teacher and if
Sure.
that happens to be their life or, something administration within a school district.
Yeah.
You hear about the superintendents, teachers, you hear about those things.
Coaches,
doctors. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really big one. But yeah, but it's true though, right? That's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that is a severe, horrid level of duplicity. In any fashion, whether that's the sexual abuse, the mental, emotional, physical.
Yes. Oh, most definitely.
You hear about it, of course, now more with online sexual acts of different natures.
Yeah.
It's disturbing.
Yes. Yeah, no argument. It is massively disturbing. I think it's statistically, we're actually safer, more secure than we've ever been in history, in many, many aspects. But now we are, everything that happens we hear about.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
So it seems like it's way more prevalent. It's not more prevalent. We're just been, in the last 20 years, been made very aware.
When we were in high school, there were teachers that did inappropriate things with their students.
Yes, but it didn't. But people in California didn't hear about it. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's I mean, so it's not that these things are new.
No,
necessarily. And some of those teachers were married.
But now,
by the way,
much more publicized, and I think to a degree, it's kind of gone into the level of almost irrational fear. How aware people are and terrified of things happening. But I don't really want to call it irrational because it's I don't think it's irrational to be, now that you're aware of how bad it can be, to be prepared for it and on the lookout for it.
By the way, I want to say I don't mean to pick on teachers. Got some loved ones that are teachers.
Yes.
Don't mean to pick on you.
No.
You just hear about it, and it's like the most prevalent that anybody could understand and relate to in terms of an example.
Mm-hmm. And it's one that I think literally everybody I've ever met has that one story of that one teacher in high school.
And then, of course, there's the parent that might be involved in all the things, and is in your example, involved in all the things, but they are also doing inappropriate things with other students or their own kids or whatever.
Yeah. Well, in this case...
but again, we make it a bigger deal because children are vulnerable.
Yes. Well, and because of the prevalence of and the proliferation of media, we're very aware of things like that. In a way that we weren't before.
Absolutely. Sex trafficking, drug pushing, all the things.
Which in almost every case is actually down from what it ever used to be, which is...
I don't know statistics, so I'm not going to go there. But... I haven't memorized them, but I look at a lot of studies and whatnot. I'm that kind of nerd. Where I find the information very interesting. I don't remember specifics typically unless I find them to be very... surprising, and then I tend to save them. But the point is,
and we're not necessarily...
Those are the things you hear about.
Yeah, those are the things you hear about. The thing is, but there's a lot of the stuff you don't hear about. And that's more, I think, to the extent that the prompt was going for, is that things that you don't hear about.
It's not just the, quote, homeschooled kid at home that gets abused. No. I hate that. That's the most ridiculous, awful, stupid.
Well, that one's a big one in the news.
Recently,
not that long ago.
Locally here, yes.
Yeah, that was.
I'm not saying it never happens. I'm saying it's not as prevalent as the media would like to make that sound.
No.
Simply because a
well,
parent chooses to homeschool their child.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
The parent was homeschooling the child because she was abusing them. The child wasn't abused because she was homeschooled.
Yeah, she wasn't actually homeschooling him.
No.
That's not even what that was.
Yeah.
That was just her excuse to get him out of school.
Yes, because she was doing things that she and
Abuse.
back to this. She was abusing, not out, but she was only doing it at home, and not when other people were around.
Of course,
again, like this, which means you knew it was wrong. You're covering for yourself, and that's where it's like, okay, once you know it's wrong, once you are cognizant of the fact that you are doing something you know you shouldn't be doing, I lose all sympathy for you when you get in trouble. I can't. It's like, I'm sorry, you knew. I will give you all the sympathy. I will give you assistance in trying to improve yourself. It's like, hey, this was many, many moons ago, and I had a friend who was having issue with his son, and he was afraid that he was being too strict in the situation. And he came to me and it's like, did I go too far? I was mad. And I don't remember all of the specifics. And did I go too far? And I was like, okay, here's my thing. Here's my question for you. Do you think you may have gone too far? Because if you actually, from your own perspective, think you went too far, you went too far. If you have to ask the question, you went too far. If your kid is looking at you and told you that you went too far, take it under advisement and think about it, because no kid wants to be punished, especially when they
have a conversation,
especially when they deserve it. But if you're asking yourself if you went too far, if you're asking yourself, should I have done that? You can almost always guarantee that the answer to that question is no. You give yourself an extra 5 seconds, I guarantee you can justify it to yourself. Well, I couldn't help myself. Well, you could help yourself 10 minutes ago when there were people around. You could help yourself when this exact same thing happened last week out in public and you didn't respond like that. So obviously you can help yourself.
I mean, of course, with my background in the legal world, there are all kinds of things we studied and heard in terms of abuse. So I've heard it from different angles, and now, of course, in the world of mental health, in today's society, which is a little different. Let's fast forward a few years.
Sure.
Than when I did work in family law and heard some of those things and dealt with some of those things. It's different. It is different. Things are perceived differently. Mental health is more of an element that you hear about. I don't think it's respected still as much as it could be and should be. And maybe even a little overboard in some areas, but those are other topics and things.
There's always a bound and a rebound, and then you find some middle ground in the middle. And right now we're still in a very oscillating phase in this whole thing. But
there is, and from what I experience in my career, it's different. I have the parents that think that they are too strict or not enough, and trying to reach out because of their various elements in their situations, blended families, special needs, difficult kids that just have emotional things going on and they just don't know how to manage it, right?
Sure.
And then, the other side where I would have a teenager or adolescent, let's just say, 12 to 17-ish, trying to express their feelings and their thoughts in a way that they're heard and respected without being punished, without being ridiculed, without the reprimand, because they already do feel like what they are experiencing is abusive, with it verbal,
sure,
emotional, and sometimes physical.
Well, and like
depending on my client.
If you're, if your kid's complaining, take it under advisement.
But those are real. Because that's definitely shaping who that kid is becoming. And I have, know where I come from.
Oh, yes.
So I do understand that. And that was way before anything was ever recognized as abuse. So we've gone to the extremes, right? Where it was just okay to beat on your kid in public in front of everybody because that was just how that was at once upon a time. And now it's it's like you can't even like look at your kid cross-eyed depending on where like you are, and somebody's going to report you. So there's extremes now. It's where's that in the middle, and that really is the perception of, and there's always a reality. Everybody has a perception. Everybody involved in something has a perception.
And I think part of me is I've always been, or not always, but a good chunk of my life I've been self-reflective. And again, I don't remember where it came from. I don't remember who said it, where I heard it, and what the context was. But I heard it said that the things you don't like in other people are the things about yourself that you see in them that you don't like about yourself.
Sure.
And that resonated. I use that term a lot on these. It's weird. But that resonated with me, and there started a journey of, okay, this guy irritates me. Why does this guy irritate me? Oh, well, he interrupts all the time. Doesn't matter who's talking, interrupts. Oh, well, that's... And then I catch myself. It's like, hey, you know what? I do that sometimes too. No wonder that guy irritates me, because I see something about myself reflected in him.
But that's genuine self-awareness.
Yes, and sometimes you need that catalyst to kick it off. But going back to the prompt, they already know.
Yes.
That's why they hide it. And if they didn't know, they wouldn't hide it. And if they know, it's like, well, they look at me weird when they find out about that. Yeah.
So when you were promoting the idea of whether it be to that partner, to that child, keep your mouth shut, that does kind of scream some...
Yeah.
Scream, I know what I'm doing, and I know that it's wrong. And that's not pink flag, that's red flag. I've heard of those things too.
That's alarms and sirens. Yeah.
I have heard of those things too. In my career and in my personal life. I mean, that is what I'm dealing with, is helping people to understand what is wrong with it. And it's even in intimate, like, partner relationships. It's not just abuse with children necessarily.
No, and it doesn't have, and in this case, it doesn't have, and like we said
the
earlier,
prompt was vague.
It doesn't have to be abuse. They were talking specifically abuse, but it doesn't have to be abuse. It could be anything that you are hiding from other people that if you feel the need to hide it, maybe you shouldn't be doing
whether that's drinking, whether that's porn, whether that's lying about
drugs, it's
where you're going, how long you've been there,
if you are,
how many drinks you've had,
all of that, and
who you've been with.
This is going to be weird for some people to hear, but my daughters have the ability to unlock my phone. They have the code to get in my phone, and they go on my phone. Again, an 18-year-old and a soon-to-be 21-year-old and their dad's phone. It's like, get in there. I don't give a crap. I got nothing to hide in there.
They might occasionally grab it and your youngest will snap nose photos and things.
300 photos of my daughter's nose. Which,
whatever.
By the way, it's like you might want to clean that once in a while.
But stop. But yes, this idea of just being open and honest, and we have family GPS and
and
all that stuff, and some of that's safety. It's not just because we need to know where each other are.
No, and it's not even we need to know. It's there's a safety thing, but it's if I need to find you, I can find you.
Safety and courtesy.
It's like you want to know where I'm at, you by all means let me know. It's like, you want to know what's on my phone? Here you go. There's the browser. Go for it. Yep, that's right. I was looking at toy cars, or I was looking up how to build a train set.
And then you're going to know because it's going to pop up in our Amazon cart because everybody's shoving all kinds of weird stuff in there. And then looking at stuff and you're just like, what is that?
Yeah, I still want to know what in the heck prompted the zero gravity full body massage chair. Because I opened up one day and I'm like, poof, there it is. I'm like, oh, is somebody shopping for my birthday? Because that would be awesome. Let's just say no.
But But yes, and I know we could talk about it for hours. We could
without not a problem. We definitely could. But I think we've kind of exhausted that at this point. Well, okay, we didn't exhaust it. We could keep going for.
We
a
could
very
keep
long
going.
time.
Unfortunately, I have a commitment, and the time that it took us to figure out what to talk about. I think yes, there's a lot to this, and that's an interesting prompt that you found, my dear.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them, and again, like when it comes right down to it, be genuine in all aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got something you think you need to be afraid to show, you might want to grow in that area.
Yes, it's the hiding aspect that.
It's like if you feel the need to hide it, there's a good chance you shouldn't be doing it.
There's so many spiritual things to that. There's so many
just,
ethical, moral,
relational. That covers a lot.
Yep.
If you feel the need to hide it, you might need to work on that.
There's
just saying.
Something to that. Yes. So, excellent prompt.
I would like to hope so. I try. I keep a lot of interesting stuff, but
you do.
As the case may be,
you do.
Like, we hope you all come back again in the future.
Yes.
I'm Fix It.
And Feel It.
We hope you join us in the future.
Until next week.
You have a great one.